So today's lesson is a personal and social education lesson and also has links with writing. We're going to be thinking about reflective writing today. This lesson's mainly aimed at upper key stage 2 but can be accessed by lower key stage 2 as well. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today, so the things that we're learning is thinking about reflecting on how the pandemic has really affected us. Using our experiences of that to write our own reflections. Learning to structure our writing with a clear opening, development of the writing, and then a good resolution, a good end at the writing. And using description to try and capture the audience. There will be an opportunity in this writing for you to enter your writing into a national competition if you want to. If not, then I'd really like to have a copy of it. So if you can do some of this writing and then get a copy to me, that would be amazing. It would also be amazing if some of the adults could write as well, because what I'd love to do is to make up a booklet of reflective writing around what's happened during this pandemic. So there are our waltz, what we are learning to do. Okay, so the task is going to be to write a piece of reflective writing up to 750 words maximum, can be less than that, about an experience that you've had during lockdown. So what we're thinking of, we're thinking in terms of, obviously it's been quite a lot of weeks now, but what I don't want is I don't really want your experiences all the way through lockdown, just as a this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. What I want you to be able to do is to pinpoint one experience that you think was quite big. So, thinking, the way to do that really is if you can find somewhere really peaceful to go. Might be a bedroom, might be somewhere in your garden, it might be somewhere you've been on a walk, it might, just somewhere where you can go and you can be on your own and just sit with a piece of paper and a pencil. And I want you to spend quite a lot of time just reflecting. So reflecting on all that's happened over these weeks of lockdown. Thinking about at the start, what happened at the start, what's happened regarding you being at home, you being at school, you being able to visit people, you not being able to visit people. All of those things that have changed for you during this time. And I just want you to jot down all of the, just really quickly, all of the experiences that have felt really big to you. So it might be, actually, it felt really big to me when I found out that school was going to be shut. It was really big to me when I realised I could come back to school. Maybe you saw a grandparent or a relative for the first time recently. That might have been a big experience for you. Maybe you've been on a socially distanced visit that was very different to what things were like before lockdown. You might have been to the zoo and it might have been very different, even just to the supermarket. It doesn't have to be something really big. It doesn't have to be a, some sort of mind-blowing, out-of-this-world experience. It can be something relatively ordinary, but some things that have changed. So just jot down as many of those experiences as you can while you're sitting in that quiet place. So you might just want to pause the video now to give you an opportunity to do that before we move on to the next stage. So now you should have a good list of all the different experiences that you've had during lockdown. And what I want you to do is to choose one of those experiences that will eventually form your piece of reflective writing. So when you're looking at those, think about maybe the experiences where you've had most feeling. Okay, so because what you're going to try and do is you're going to try and put across to the audience some really good feelings. This is not just going to be a piece, it's not going to be a recount. It's not just going to be a piece of writing about this happened, this happened, this happened. It's going to be a lot more reflective than that. So something that allows you to reflect on things that have happened, and kind of shows how you felt about it and how your self-awareness is. When you've chosen which activity that's going to be, or which experience that's going to be, you're then going to just jot down or brainstorm some words that come into your head. Words that describe, or it might be little phrases, just on a piece of scrap paper, words that describe your feelings. So think about your feelings throughout that experience. Maybe your feelings changed, maybe they stayed the same. Some words to describe your feelings, how you felt. Just give you a moment to do that. Secondly, your reactions or your behaviours, the things that you did. Maybe you did some things that surprised you. How did you react? Some of those reactions and behaviours might overlap with how you felt. So just jot those down for me. Thirdly, what were you thinking? What you were thinking might be very different to what you were feeling, or it might be very similar. Just scribble down some things that you might have been thinking during that time. If you need more time, just pause the video before you move on. And then what were your hopes and your fears? Even if this was a really, really happy experience, you may have had some fears, some worries. You might have been really hoping or wishing for something, wishing that something would happen. And just jot down what those are. If you need more time, go back to that, because what we're looking for is a piece of paper full of lots and lots of words and lots of phrases that will help you during your piece of writing. Okay, so we're going to come to your actual piece of writing now. And obviously we need it to be really well structured. You've only got up to 750 words. You need it to be structured with a good opening, then a development, and then a resolution at the end, or kind of like a good sort of conclusion at the end. So thinking about openings of stories and reflections and recount and all of those things that you normally write in school. Now, with a good opening, it needs to draw the reader in. So you need to try and find ways to draw the reader in. If you just start your reflection by putting, I woke up one day, it doesn't really draw in the reader. So I'm going to give you a few suggestions that I know you would have done in school anyway, to try and start your reflection in a more interesting way. So a good opening sentence is crucial to draw the reader in. Here's some ideas. So maybe you want to start with a fronted adverbial. So something like wandering through the playground, comma, and then what happened next. So you're bringing the reader in. All right. So thinking about that first word, wandering through the playground, or facing the front door of my grandma, you know, and then a comma, and then going on to what you might want to write about. Another way to start might be starting with a sound or a smell. So something like, the cheery sound of a kindly voice could be heard from the other side of the front door. Straight away, that makes me think, I wonder who that was. I know it. You've got a few clues there, because it's a cheery sound, it's a kindly face, a kindly voice, but it still makes you want to know more. So a really, really good way to draw your reader in, making you want to know more. Maybe you could start with a feeling. For example, a shiver ran down my spine as I crossed the threshold of the school gates. So maybe a feeling. Or maybe a time. The date was the 17th of March. and there will be no other date like it. Again, makes us wonder, why is there going to be no other date like it? The other way that's a good way of opening something is kind of opening with the end. So who would have believed that today would turn out to be, and then that links you onto the end, so we know that the story's going to end a little bit differently to how you might expect it during the day. So have a good think about how you could start your piece of reflective writing, and then what you want to try and do is have a short paragraph that will kind of introduce your writing. Have a go at doing that and then pause, and then we'll move on to the next bit. So pause your video while you're doing that. Okay. The next part is developing the narrative. So now you had all those jottings from before when you sat in your reflective place, really reflecting, and you had all your words that you've come up with and your emotions and everything. So now you can use those words to help you with ideas for your reflection. So what you want to do is to try and make your work have a sense of reflection, like I've said, and not just a list of all the things that have happened. It's not a recount. So if I just give you an example here, so I just want you to compare these two extracts here that I've got for you. Here's the first one. They're both about the same thing, but you'll get the idea of what I mean by making it more reflective rather than a list of what's happened. So here's the first one. I had arranged to meet my friends at 10 o'clock. I left the house at 9:30. I walked to the bus stop. I had to wait 20 minutes because the bus was late. Eventually I got to town. That's the first. Now look at how a different author has made the same information more reflective. It was with excitement and some nervousness I set off to meet my friends in town at the agreed time. As luck would have it, the bus was late. This day of all days. Same information, but they've taken out the things that really aren't important. So we don't need to know it was 10 o'clock. Don't need to know that you left at 9:30. Don't need to know that you waited 20 minutes. What you need to know is how you were feeling. So with excitement and nervousness, I set off to meet my friends in town. As luck would have it, the bus was late, this day of all days. Makes you want to read on. So thinking about how you can be reflective like that. So aim to be descriptive in your use of language throughout this. Use imagery, metaphors and similes that you've done in school, personification, and all of those literary techniques that you've been learning while you've been in school to bring your writing to life, because you now want to talk about the main part of your experience, and you'll be using all of those things to try and make it exciting. Show and don't tell. So make good use of description to create a vivid impression of the experience. You could use your senses rather than just listing what happened. You could think about your senses of what could you smell, what could you see, what could you hear. Think about the feeling you want to create. You might want to create fear or happiness or excitement, and choose language that really reflects that. Don't add boring detail. If it doesn't add to the feeling you want to create, then don't include it. Don't need to know it's 10 o'clock, it's 9:30. Don't need to know all of that. And avoid the words happy, sad, good and nice, because they really don't bring anything to a piece of reflective writing. Okay, then you're going to think about your endings. Okay, once you've written your development of your reflection, you're going to think about your endings. Here's a couple of ideas, 3 ideas of how you might end your reflection. So maybe you might finish by just exploring and reflecting on how your life will be different as a result of what's happened in your reflection. Your ending might refer back to the beginning, and maybe it might even repeat the first line. Or maybe it might resolve the feelings you've had or change them in some way. So have a little think about how you're going to sum up your piece of reflective writing. Okay, then you've got a couple of options with your writing. First of all, I'd love to see all of them. So if you could possibly either take a photo of them and send them to me, if you could type them and email them to me, that would be great. However you do it, I'd love to see it. If you want to pop them on the bus, that would be great too. But if you want to submit your work into a national competition, you can do. Categories are for ages from 7 to 17. I've got on this slide where you can go to submit your work. And by doing that, you might get your work published, and that would be amazing. Lots and lots of prizes, including being published in a book and including meeting some famous authors. There's a lot you'll see on, if you go to that website, you'll be able to find lots more information about this competition. The deadline is the 17th of July if you're going to submit online. Love to have some people submit. Please let me know if you do. And if you don't, please make sure you get it to me. So I'm hoping that we'll have lots of entries, including some of the adults, because it would be really nice. And it's quite a therapeutic thing to do, to think that as adults we could write alongside our children. I'll put all the slides on the website so you can refer back to them.